this is Ellie, and today I want to make this video because I wanted to share some tips for staying in Beijing as a student. More specifically, it would be for my juniors who will be coming in August. So I have been studying in Beijing for a year already, and I am a fourth year student studying in the Beijing University of Chinese Medicine. It's actually a course which is offered by Nanyang Technological University, which is a university in Singapore. And it's a 5-year course where you do 3 years in NTU and you do 2 years here in Beijing, in the Beijing University of Chinese Medicine. So this course is actually a double degree where you do Chinese medicine and biomedical science. So you can either choose to go into research, become a Chinese physician, or you can continue your studies and become a medical doctor, like the conventional medical doctor. Because this course is very, very heavily embedded in Chinese medicine, so even though you get information from conventional medicine, it's really not enough for you to become a conventional doctor. You have to continue studying, like maybe a master's or get into Duke NUS. But of course, there's going to be competition, so you could think of this as a stepping stone, but it does not guarantee your spot to medical school. So these tips I'm going to share, they are tips that I feel are useful and maybe things that I wish I had known before coming here. So the first one would be rental. When you first come to Beijing, you would be either staying in your senior's house or you would have booked an Airbnb. And the first thing you want to do is probably find your permanent place to stay in. The thing you should know about renting places in Beijing is that they don't exactly look at the contract. They rely a lot on human emotion, like your relationship with the landlord. It doesn't matter how good your agent is. If you have a good landlord, then if anything happens to your house or if you need anything to get changed, then if your landlord is good, she or he will pay for everything. So if you don't want to have too many extra or sudden expenses, then you might want to consider that. Because for us, I'm staying with 5 other roommates, and we weren't really expecting things in our house to break down, even though this house is quite an old house. So what happened in my case is that the washing machine and the heater broke down. The washing machine broke down first, and then soon after, the heater broke down. So I think for the washing machine, it cost about 800 renminbi, which is 160 Sing dollars. And at first, our landlord didn't really want to pay. So we had some issues with communicating with her, and we took quite a while to get her to pay for the washing machine, because by right, the contract says that if something spoils and it's not because you bashed it up and it's more like because of wear and tear, then by right, the landlord should pay for it. But then she wasn't willing to pay for anything. She thinks that it's because we used it too much, and then because of that it broke down. But then the washing machine has been here for already 3 years, so it's not a very new washing machine. And then before that, when we were using it, it made a lot of noise. So you know it's really not a washing machine that is in good condition. But of course, she would have argued that we didn't say anything when we agreed to sign the contract. So yeah. And then soon after, our heater also broke down. And because our house is a bit bigger, usually you would find houses with 3 rooms, or maybe, yeah, probably around 3 rooms, but we have 4 rooms and 2 toilets. So the heater we had previously, which broke down, it was actually for only 1 toilet, but we have 2 toilets. So that was one issue that sped up its rate of use, and That's why it broke down so easily, even though it's been around for about 3 years, and our landlord expected us to pay for it. So in the end, we had to pay for half of it. I mean, it's not because we misused it. It was because this model wasn't even appropriate for 2 toilets. So yeah, if you wanna ensure that you don't bump into this kind of issue, then you could try to look for newer houses, because our apartment is quite old. Or you can make sure that your landlord is a nice person, and then she seems really good to communicate with. Our agent actually told us that the landlord isn't really that good to communicate with, so that was one issue. At least it wasn't too much to pay for, and then because there are 6 of us living in one house, so when you split up the cost, it's really not that much. But then you just feel a bit cheated because it wasn't even your fault for spoiling the heater or any of the appliances at home. Yeah. And then you also worry that if your air conditioner spoils, then you will also have to pay for it. Yeah. So if you want to reduce such worries, then maybe you can find a newer house, or make sure that your landlord is good to talk to. Oh, and another thing was that when the electrician came to fix the heater, he found out that the gas pipe, because our heater is linked to the gas pipe, it's not electrical, the energy comes from the gas. He found out that the gas pipe was actually melted, and it was an old model which should have been changed a few years ago. So it's also because we got a house that was quite old. So one tip would be to find a newer house. You would have to pay a bit more, but if you don't want to bump into these issues or like safety issues, then maybe you want to find a newer house. But right now I'm staying with 5 other roommates, so there are 6 of us, and the total rental for this apartment is 8,800. We bargained a bit, so it was slightly more than this. And 4 of us share 2 rooms, so it's 2,211. Yeah, and I'm paying about 1,200 renminbi. So I share the room with another person, so it makes up to about 240 Sing dollars. Yeah, so if we got a newer house, it would have been more than that. So actually, if you want to calculate and you feel that you want to save more, then you could get a cheaper house, but then you run the risk of things breaking down and then paying for it later. But in the end, you actually save more in the long run. Just that sometimes your safety might be at risk. Like for our case, the gas pipe actually melted. Now, the second tip that I want to share, it should have come before the first tip, but then I needed to talk about the first one first and then tell you this. The second tip would be to only find a house after you come to Beijing. You have to see the house for yourself and not get anyone else to see the house that you will be staying in for 2 years straight. So for our case, we actually signed another house. We signed the contract for another house, and it wasn't even under an agent because our senior found it for us, and then it was more of a relationship kind of thing, because our seniors, they met this auntie, and then she was very nice. She wanted to let out her house for quite a low rate, and her house on the pictures was actually really big, so we thought it was very worth it. And then on top of that, she was going to renovate it, so we had to pay a deposit before we came over, before we saw the house. But our seniors were here to help us see the house for us. So the problem with that is sometimes your expectations and other people's expectations would be different, and you would be the one who is going to stay in the house, so you should always see the house first before you sign any contract. So before we actually gave the deposit, we were actually really careful with it because we didn't want to just give our money away like that. So one suggestion was to actually pay half the deposit. So that was what we did. I think we paid half or around there. And the thing was, when we came over and saw the house, she didn't renovate the house as she promised. And so it was actually a miscommunication because she thought that if we promised to pay the deposit, then she would use that money to renovate the house. But because we didn't pay the whole deposit, so she didn't renovate the house. So there were a lot of problems with the house, and yeah. So we decided to cancel that contract and then we just pay the extra deposit that we didn't pay, which actually, according to the agents here in Beijing, they said we didn't have to pay for it, but then the landlord was really quite scary. She was making quite a big fuss of it. She and her son was making quite a big fuss of it. So we just paid so that we wouldn't bump into any trouble next time. Yeah. So after that episode, because we cancelled the contract, we didn't have any place to stay at. So we had to quickly find another place to stay, which was why we ended up with this old house. And it's because it was one of the only few landlords that was willing to sign a contract within such a short notice. And also because we were really tired. I mean, I wasn't here actually. My roommates, my housemates were here, and they were already really tired from all the saga of arguing with the landlord and whatever. Yeah. So we just settled for this house. I mean, it's not really that bad. It's just that there was some unpleasantness in between when things started to break down. But yeah, so if you want to avoid all these, just get an Airbnb or stay in your senior's house and see the houses for yourselves. So seeing the houses for ourselves, it was actually a tip that was given to us by our teachers when we were back in Singapore. But then I think we were just worried that we would find it difficult to find a house within just 1 week or 2 weeks. We thought it would be fine to let our seniors look at the houses for us, but actually the best is always to see things for yourselves because you would be the one who is staying here. So make sure that you look at the house yourself. And you really don't have to be worried about not being able to find a house here because there are so many agents around. There's like 我爱我家. There's like, I think ours is called, I forgot what ours is called, haha. I think it's called 连家. I don't know. But anyway, there is 自 room also, which you can even look at the rooms online, but then of course you will want to see the house yourself. And you just contact the agent online and then they'll bring you to see it. And yeah, there's so many that you can find online. There's so many agents. There are really a lot of places that you can find. It just depends how far it is from school. So you have to line up your priorities. I have some friends who stay like 20-minute walk from school, but they got bikes, so they get to school within 10 minutes. I stay about 7 minutes from school exactly by walking. Some of my friends stay maybe 10-15 minutes away. So it's really not that difficult to find a place which is nice and not too far from school as well. And the prices would also be quite alright. I know there are some places which are newer, but they are also a lot further from school, maybe 20 minutes. And they are also much more expensive. So actually staying near school would be quite a cost-effective choice as well. You might be wondering why I keep saying that we chose places that are near school, and it's like as if staying near school is such an important thing because in Singapore we stay so far from NTU. Or if you stay in hostel then it's near, but if you don't then it's at least half an hour away. So the thing is, classes start at 8 a.m. Most of our classes start at 8 a.m. So you want to stay near school so you can have your nice breakfast and then just dilly-dally and go to school. And you can get a longer rest. And the good thing of staying near school is also you can actually just come home during lunchtime because the lunch breaks are really long. Our class usually ends at 11:30, the latest, or 11:40, and then by the time I get back, it's already 11:45 or 11:50. Then we cook, and we have until 1. We have until 1 p.m. at home, and then we just go to school. Yeah. So classes, the next class starts at 1:20. So staying near school is quite a good thing because you can come home and cook a healthy dish and not eat the outside salty and oily stuff.